Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Evan Troxel.
I'm Cormac Phelan.
And on this episode, we have two very special guests. I went to visit these guys when I was on a road trip to Colorado a couple of years ago and was live on their show. And that is called Inside the Firm. And Lance, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Lance Cayko, and I'm one of the co-hosts and co-founders of F9 Productions, co-host of Inside the Firm podcast.
And I am Alex Gore, and I am not a cat.
That was awesome.
Throwback. And also the co-host of Everything Lance said.
Here you go.
And so these guys have like they said, a podcast called Inside the Firm. They're partners at F9 Productions, which is an architectural firm, and you guys are in Longmont, Colorado. And You've been through a very interesting process over the past few years, and you've been going through that on your show for the last, 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Why don't you explain kind of what you've been up to?
4 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
So I just, I looked at our first episode of Inside the Firm was in 2017, right at the end of it. And it coincided exactly with when we purchased our first piece of raw land to take the leap, following like the lead of Jonathan Segal out in California, out in San Diego, of trying to become architect, builder, developer, and doing that whole thing.
Yeah, and the podcast started to basically just document that sequence. And there was actually 2 reasons, and then expanded. So document that sequence so everyone could follow along and see what we're doing. It turned out the permit process took forever. Who knew? Took twice as long as the actual build process. But you'll see us throughout that whole process tell what's going on. There was some really, really tough times. One of the units flooded. I mean, it was crazy stressful at times.
That episode is actually called "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls."
Nice.
Seriously, and it's a rip off of the TLC song "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls."
Yeah. You guys are old enough to remember that.
Hey, that's not cool.
It's true. Not cool, but true.
And then the other thing was, we're busy, and we didn't sometimes we were so busy we couldn't talk, just because we were out in different job sites doing different things. So we thought, well, at least we'll have this hour each Friday that we can talk about stuff inside the firm. And why not? Our philosophy has always just been to give where we can. You guys know, Entree Architect, Mark LePage, love, learn, share, follow the same thing. So then, it was a mix between updates to what's happening inside a real, not that anyone else isn't real, but, for a real architecture firm as we're growing, dealing with these challenges. And then we added a Monday morning segment too. So where we're interviewing different people. I just interviewed a passive house person, UFC fighter. Lance had on
John McAfee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was radical. And the other reason why too, Alex, the reason why we started the podcast too was because we wanted to just show people that they could start from nothing. Like Alex and I got laid off in the Great Recession, like many architects did, construction folks. And we just wanted to help people, show people like the American dream is still alive and real. If you put your nose, if you grind hard and do the right things and keep your head up and work hard and obviously put yourself in the place of being there when opportunity is abound for you. So it's also a documentation of, we talked about like episode 1 or 0 about how we landed our first clients, how to do really basic stuff about fundamentally like start a timer, like make sure you time all of your time so you keep track of, then you can understand how to bill and what billable rates should be. So we really unpeel some stories that maybe people wouldn't even like. We talked about first time we had to fire somebody, what that was like, and then how we worked through that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And, we actually had some good mentors during this whole process, but we did kind of have to start from scratch, and that's also an opportunity. But the other reason was, in that vein of love, learn, share is, well, some people might be in the middle of Iowa or something, and they don't have that connection. They want to start something. And, maybe they don't get to ask questions. They could email and us ask questions, but at least if they're thinking about that, they can have the information that someone might, we might be slightly ahead of them in that process. so that they can apply those lessons that we learned, sometimes the hard way, sometimes the stupid way, and maybe make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the cool things was that you kind of just laid it all out there, and basically anybody else who was getting ready to lay it out there or wanted to, they kind of knew that they weren't alone, and everybody's going to go through these struggles. Everybody's going to have these issues, and they're going to, oh, is it just me? No, you guys showed that it's not just them.
Yeah, and actually, that's a perfect point. I was asking, this was a long time ago before the podcast. We were doing a big project, and I thought it was just me because we were running in problems with the city and all this stuff. And this older architect, he goes, no, him and his staff were working on a project in what's the old airport? Staples in Denver. And they're redoing it. So it's a nice development. Established firms are working on it.
New urbanist style development.
And he goes, oh, we're running into all those same issues. And it was just a revelation to me. Like me, little new guy, just trying to make my little path along. And like, no, dealing with the same thing. Been doing this for years. This is what happens. So just that one saying from him meant a lot to me,
Yeah. I noticed something over the years following your guys and your story, your podcast, is the word that keeps coming up is, like you mentioned it a minute ago, Lance, grinding away, hustling, creating opportunities. And so obviously at some point you guys transitioned from, and not 100%, because I know you still do kind of typical architectural projects, right? But at some point you guys decided to jump in this new direction, create new opportunity, buy some land, do a development on it, and then you took everybody on that journey with you. And I think that it's just testament to who you two guys are. Number one, that you are out there trying to create these opportunities for yourselves, for your staff, and then putting it out there for other architects to go on that journey with you. And I think that it really inspires a lot of people. Have you gotten feedback along the way where you've gotten that kind of, inspiration to other people that they're talking to you about?
I think the most immediate ones that we got is there's a couple people that reach out to me from NDSU, the school that I used to go to, and have asked me questions and then thanked me for that. And I can't speak for Lance, but I'm going to start to. I'm going to try to. He didn't bring me coffee. So
you already made fun of Iowa. This is, by the way, it's the second time you made fun of Iowa on a podcast today. I don't know what he has against Iowa.
I only did one, and then I just used the same joke.
Love you, Iowa.
Yeah, Lance was reviewing a project with someone and going into details about, projects and codes and all that stuff. And I'm looking around the firm. I'm like, everyone's basically here, and everyone that's not here, I know where they're working and doing. Like, who is he talking to? Like, this is legitimate, like, I don't want to say boss to employee, but, just something anyone would do in a firm, go over, hey, here's all the particulars and stuff like that. And then also telling him, hey, keep a timer so that you know how much you're actually spending, so that you know that are these bids working, are you making money? And I assuming, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you're just helping someone out. Yeah.
So this gentleman reached out to me on LinkedIn because of the podcast. So we get those kind of emails. That's actually the best part. Like, yes, we had Dell as a sponsor at one point, or CAD, and we get to meet and hang out with Evan and Cormac and all the other.
So cool.
I know all the other architect podcasters out there, which is a really cool, tight little community because we all know each other.
Oh yeah.
But we've had dinner, right? But that's the best part, is when we get that surprise Facebook message or LinkedIn message or the email. And so that's one example. One example I've gotten recently too is somebody was using one of the services I like to use a lot is Thumbtack. So it's not a plug, it's just a reality. And some architects hate it, but I love it. And we've got a couple emails from architects and other business owners, and they're like, I took your advice, and now I need to expand because my business has grown by like 3 or 4 fold. I'm like, whoa, that's where you get chills, and you're like, wow, we're actually making a difference. And then the give for no other reason than giving makes all sense in the world.
And so over the years, you guys have done a bunch of different types of projects, right? You did Atlas, you did the tiny house, you did the Amazon headquarters proposal just to try to get some attention from them and try to get them to come to Denver. And like, you've done so many different things, including the podcast. How did any of that like play into where you're going or what you've decided to do recently with going into becoming a developer?
So my old boss, Liebskin, I don't know if he, I want to say he told this to me, but
I feel like you did.
But God, I would try to trap him in the elevator. You know, and he's Daniel Liebskin, right? So I'm like, oh, he's going in the elevator. Me too. I'm, going for a coffee too. No big deal, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, and he could have said this on a podcast, and I'm just misremembering it, right? But at some point, I got from him. He said, always do a fun project a year. Do one fun project a year. And Lance was talking on another podcast, and he goes, do one project where you have control a year. Because sometimes building isn't that fun.
Right.
Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's...
Same thing with designing, right? I mean, you can you've heard the horror stories about that intern at I.M. Pei's office, but like he was just the bathroom guy, right?
Yeah.
Or girl or whatever. But yeah, I think like we're creative people. We're such creative people. Like I feel like part of our souls will die if we don't do one creative endeavor per year minimum that we just have full control over. It's a risk. It's we met with this banker once. Remember that conversation where he said
Which banker?
Well,
one
banker that we've worked with before, and he told us a story about the founder of Oscar Blues. If you guys know the Oscar Blues brewery, big brewery out here, all kinds of restaurants, and he's like, oh yeah, we would at the bank even we would have seed money for one crazy project a year. And he told us this story where he's like, guess who it is? And I go, I bet it's Dale from Oscar Blues. And he goes, it was. And then if he wouldn't have threw that money at him with his crazy brewery idea, this is like when Sam Adams wasn't even a thing. Wow. And now they're this,
Well, and what is weird, and I know a lot of people won't know who Oscar Blues were, but they were the first ones to do the small batch brewery in a can.
Yeah.
Everyone else was doing it in bottles, and then that allowed them to expand faster and do all this stuff. So Evan, like I probably even before we knew each other, I probably knew of you, right? And you had your website, and you're always doing your projects too, your own individual projects. And what we found is when either fun or we have full control, we have great clients, medium clients. I wouldn't say we have any terrible clients right now.
No.
But just to give an analogy, which probably everyone that's listening to this has had some sort of conversation almost like this, is I had a client who was asking me how long the design process is. It was longer than he expected. And then I told him about, what's actually happening, what I deliver to them, their input, how long that takes. And then finally he goes, well, I'm not an architect. Wouldn't you have better ideas than me? And we were really vibing back and forth. And I go, honestly, yes, I will. I will have solutions. And I go, but the thing is that some people have lived in their house. They want this way. They want that way. They're like, oh, no, that's not me, right? And when he said that, it kind of related to when you're doing that project that you have control over, that fun project yourself, is that you get to have your vision be authentically executed. And then that will vibe with a lot of people.
Gosh, and it's really given like staff a whole nother sense of ownership. Because I've seen like staff that's, maybe within a year or less at our firm come in and have their hearts broken. And I guarantee everybody else had that in their career once before, at least a couple of times, where you're a young intern or a young architect, budding architect, maybe not even licensed, and you're just in love with this one house that you did or this one commercial project, and you're like, oh my God, it's perfect. And then the budget comes in and then it's just destroyed, or it never gets built, or whatever. Yeah. But when we do our own projects like Atlas, the other two tiny houses, now Mark II that we're sitting in the development, stuff like that, we make sure everybody gets to touch a little piece of it so that they really feel like they own it. They own part of it and they get that fulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back, this is a very long-winded response to your, to your question.
No worries.
But the response is, not every one of those ideas that we do align to, oh, this is the path, this is the perfect path to take.
No.
But it aligns with the theory of, oh, do we have time? Can we do one cool project this year?
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to be? That's the through line.
I think so a direct answer to finally get to one would be when we did Amazon. So it was Alex's idea. He did most of the graphics and kind of the programming and everything. And then I was the media person. So I spent a day and a half on social media, boosting posts, doing all kinds of stuff like that, getting Denver 7's attention, Fox 31, and then we got interviews, and then from there it just exploded. We obviously didn't get Amazon, but we did get a call the next week for a townhome project. And the gal literally cited, now she's one of our best clients and our friend actually. And she said, well, I picked you guys because you're young and innovative, and I could tell that from Amazon, and that's who I wanted. And I go, oh,
nice.
Okay.
But her first question was, she called us up and said, hey, I saw you, on the TV. Do you happen to do townhomes? And that's, what we do.
That's literally.
And so I figured that's actually what we're really good at.
Not Amazon.
Yeah.
We would have had to hire one of you guys or something. I don't know, for consultants for that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, what's really interesting to me is you guys put these ideas out there, but then you really put them out there. I mean, I think that a lot of people will enter a competition or they'll do some project like you're talking about, but then they won't exploit it in the media sense, right? And I think that is something that I notice you guys do over and over and over again, even if it is just for a day or 2 days afterward. You actually do as many things as you can to get it out there.
Yeah.
Alex really is the spearhead, was the original spearhead for that. And it came down to Flood House. So Fargo, North Dakota. So right out of college, right when we started F9, we didn't have a lot of work. So there was more time actually for those kind of projects. So Alex took one of his theses, a piece of architecture from his thesis, and it was his house up on stilts. And flood season happens every year in Fargo, North Dakota, that Red River floods. And put together this awesome design and then sent it to the paper, and they ran a full page thing over it. And we're like, oh, maybe there's a system here. So, and then there is. And so to hold up our most recent one that I'm excited about, that you've probably seen, is when we got on the cover of Builder magazine.
Yeah.
So for that house, and it was the same thing. It was just me dedicating 2 days of time. And thankfully we have a staff that can support me doing that, and reaching out to all these magazines and other places, and putting together a press release. You really can be your own media at this point. It's pretty exciting.
And it came from necessity too, because we've always had work, and then we hired our first intern, and then that lasted the summer, and then went back to school, but we were making up work for them to do. And also it hit us is, if we ever do this again, we are not going to make up work for them to do. I'm going to offload, and we made this decision. I'm going to offload my work to them, and then I'm going to make up work for me to do, which is to get work, right? So nice. I was always the one that, hey, if there is 8 hours, 6 hours, 2 days, it's not the intern just sitting there making them do something dumb or pointless. Right. I have to come up, and I have that drive of, I realize we don't have any work. Maybe I should get some work somehow, and then I think that just and then we just continued that with the fun stuff too, because we saw the return.
And that's interesting, because that was a pitfall when, my college roommate and I were on our own. We were always so busy, and we were kind of so singularly mindedly focused on the projects that we had on hand, that we weren't looking towards the projects that need to come in to sustain us longer and longer. And then 2008 happens, and we just weren't prepared to ride through it. And so, these are the things that I love that you're telling this story, because, those were the things that we realized after the fact. Oh, that's what we did wrong. We didn't plan ahead.
Yeah. And also, we made that decision that I would do that. And it wasn't because maybe that was my strength, but actually Lance is also more productive too. So it was, who's the more productive person? You. Okay, you do the work. Worked out well for me, but it actually worked out well for both of us.
For the firm, totally. Right. Yeah. It was I think it was one of the that's the key, is trying to be able to multiply. I've seen this
Right.
question all the time in the entree architect community. Like, people are so nervous about their first hire if they're sole proprietors, and I don't blame them.
Right.
I feel like I have this unfair advantage because I have Alex and Alex has me, and we just, there's somebody to lean on, there's something to bounce back from. But even in that case, if you're sole proprietor, like, how do you get to the point of when you can multiply so then you can free yourself up and then do stuff like we're talking about to then further expand? And I know everybody has their limits. Like, some people are like, oh, I don't want more than 2 or 3 employees. Fine. But it's really hard to get off that first one and take that leap.
So you guys talked a little bit about the power of social media, because you said everybody can be their own media producers, right? So obviously, I think, Cormac, when you were talking about back in when you were running your firm, was that really a thing that you guys paid attention to?
No, we didn't at all. I mean, I don't think we even really knew, what
Right.
we clearly we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we lasted for 4 years, but that was
Nobody
about
knows what
it.
they're doing, though.
Yeah.
To various levels of success. But so Lance and Alex, it seems like you guys try to leverage that. And I know that there's still questions out there, or maybe there's just a hold up that a lot of budding firms come up against, which is, should I be spending time doing that? But what you're showing is that it's actually led to all these crazy opportunities.
I think what it really comes down to is timing. So another good example of how we time stuff was, in 2012, everybody knew this was coming in 2012, right? We've heard about the Mayan calendar forever. Oh, the world is going to end. And so Alex and I were driving on vacation with our girlfriends, Alex's now wife, down to like Arizona or something,
Grand
the Grand
Canyon.
Canyon. And as you guys know, you've been in the Southwest, like, it is apocalyptic as far as the landscape.
Oh yeah.
It's so beautiful. Like, Utah,
Oh,
I travel all the time, but like, Utah is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
The deserts are just, it's like, this is where the apocalypse, if there was an aftermath and all that other stuff. So we're driving along or whatever, and we're just going off and bantering, and we're like, well, what is the next one we should do? And this was like 2011, so leading right up to 2012. We were like, well, I bet Google searches are going to explode about doomsday houses. And so we took the flood house, and then we made 3 more. And then we bought the domain doomsdaydwellings.com and made these really cool houses that one is like a box and it could open up, and it's called the seed house, because the idea is it's for fire. It's where you should put it where it's going to be fire, like Western wildfires. And if you know how that works as well, as soon as there's a fire, then all the seeds actually propagate afterwards. Like, they actually need it to happen. We made another house. It's called Genesis, and this one is for nuclear disasters. So it was like really spherical. Like, Elon Musk would live in this house if I look at it now. It's very, very modern and like round and stuff. That one goes underground. There was the flood house, and then there's house for out in California for Evan if he ever wants to build it. It's on like pads, so it can resist earthquakes. Yeah. So we made that whole website. Alex spent all this time. We did all these awesome renderings. We went out and just did another press release, and then we landed a 7-page spread in Modern in Denver, which is our local Dwell magazine. And like, the advertising, if we went and bought those pages, this is when we had we still don't have any money, but we had even less money then, right, than now. And so, like, especially when you're in your first couple of years, like, advertising it's just, you should do it, but people are, you got to pay yourself, you got to eat. Each of those pages is like $2,500 is what it would have cost us, but we got all this free publicity from it. And then it's also cool because now you can, like, even that builder magazine I just showed you guys, I was in a sales meeting the other day at our mezzanine, and I got to pull that out and say, yeah, oh, by the way, we're the cover of Builders Mag. I mean, just all of a sudden it solidifies you. People are like, oh, I'm going with these guys.
And that, the Modern in Denver, I don't even know if we solicited to them. I don't know if we figured out the equation of soliciting to all the magazines right away. And maybe we did, but it's not like we knew that was going to get in there. It was, again, oh, this is a fun project that our authenticity is going to drive through because we're able to control it. And then what Lance is adding onto this cake is, the timing.
The timing.
Can you do a fun project that is awesome, but can you time it with something that people are going to be talking about too? Yeah. The flood, doomsday. Tiny houses were popping
Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, we're a broken record now.
Yeah.
Like, there's the formula.
There you go. And some advice that we've tried to give other folks too, where they're like, how do I do that? And then we say, well, here's an example, right? Denver's always, whenever the Winter Olympics come around, Colorado is on the list. I don't think they'll ever pull the trigger because like your state is always a crazy debt after that.
Right.
But should you capitalize on that as an architect? And somebody with visual skills, if it's going to come to your town, and so you can give people a visualization, like newspapers are always you're going to make their job easier. Right. Think of it that way. Like you are just spoon feeding these editors stuff. Then they can go home early and have a Cabernet.
Yeah. Like me.
Yeah.
So you guys work your butts off, and then you decided you were going to add a whole other job description to what you do by basically building your own development. So how did that transition happen, and why did it happen?
So the how was we built Atlas Tiny House, and then Fortune 500 company said, hey, we want that, but please make it bigger, way cooler, put a hydraulic deck on top, make everything fold, make the railings fold.
And we want two of them.
And we said, okay, but that's going to cost you X. And they said, sure.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, if they said okay to that, I guess I'm in again. Because it was, and the reason I say that is because building those tiny houses it was hard. Building anything is hard in the sense that you're taking raw materials and you're creating space out of nothing. Your bang sticks into place. I mean, it is like this. It's still a very barbaric act. I don't care how precise we are with lasers. So there was a hesitation, obviously, and that company also recognized too. I think that was a unique thing that they recognized is that Lance and Al are builders plus architects. I feel like they're the only people that could get something like that done, where it's foldability and precision and all of that.
Yeah. So, and it's also hard too we can talk about architect to builder. Back then it was architect as builder. So it was like you're running the firm and you're building. That's why it was also super stressful too, rather than sort of separating it and having a process. So it's you're not literally splitting yourself in half trying to do two things at once, right? There's a better way to do it that we eventually kind of figured out. Just took us a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then after that, we built that. Then we used the profit from that to buy land to do the project that you see. This is our shop. There's tools down there. This is a little interstitial mezzanine conference space, and then the office upstairs. And the idea, the why behind that, besides, hey, it's another fun project that we have control with, but more responsibility, more reward, right? Architects and designers spend so much time and effort on a project, are so invested, know it so well, have a lot of the same risk, and a lot of the profit is not in your pocket. It's in the developer, it's in the builder, and we've almost seen too, especially when those roles are separated rather than stacked. It's like, oh, we're doing the same amount of work, but we're not getting the same amount of reward. So we had to test that out by building this.
Yeah, and I would say it's not just profit in the sense of money. This actually wasn't a very profitable project for us in that sense. Like a lot of other developer buddies said, I wouldn't have done that. That's a very tight margin. We did it. But I think the other reward we got was we can say we wore all three hats, and that knowledge is huge, because now we can speak everybody's language. And then the other thing too is when we bring people in, new clients into the office, like we're just walking around like peacocks because we're so proud of the space we made, and we're so confident in our skills now from top to bottom. And it's really starting to translate down to everybody else in the firm when they can start saying, like, they can tell clients now, oh yeah, that steel beam's going to $1,000 and feel comfortable about it. Or if we make this patio bigger, it's going to cost you this much more. There's been a huge reward of profitability in knowledge.
Yeah.
More than anything, I would say.
And honestly, if you don't learn and then adjust, you're being stupid. There's no other way to say that. So we thought, like, if we did have a plan, like, we'll make this 8 units plus our headquarters 9 units, and then the next one we'll make 16.
It'll be bigger,
or 18, or like that was literally the path, looking to double up. And we saw how long the planning went. We saw how the construction went and all the risks that went with that. We go, wait, if this, just call it an 8-plex. You do an 8-plex. The lead time from buying the land, all the risks, going through there, the process, and then building it, literally 3 years in the future, especially now, who knows what kind of Mad Max situation we're going to be in 3 years. Like 3 years planning is a lot different in 2019 than it was in 2016.
Yep.
It's a world apart.
It is.
So where we transition to is, okay, instead of doing that, and people can do that, people build multifamily all the time. 4 houses are close to equal to profit, way lower risk, way easier to do than a multifamily unit development. Because not only can those 4 houses, we know the client over the architecture process, we get to trust each other, they know us, we know them, it's close in proximity, but then that feedback loop is tighter, because it's not like you're buying the land, then doing all the drawings, and then waiting to build it. It's no, they bought the land. Hey, you did all the plans. Hey, you bring up that conversation, and then you're immediately just extending that project into the future. So that was a great lesson that we learned.
So when you guys bought this land, how much were you sweating at that point? I mean, and that was just the very beginning.
Not.
Yep.
We only started sweating once we had everything was approved.
Okay.
Except
you had to do it.
Except for the funding. Yep. Yeah. And the way it works with land loans, typically, because most people buy them with cash. Well, we didn't have that kind of cash. We still don't have that kind of cash. And it's a balloon loan. So like it's a 3-year thing, because they're planning for you to, get through planning, build it. So planning 1 year, building 1 year, selling 1 year, 3 years, and you're done. That's when it really started to get nervous and nerve-wracking, was us running around for a couple months, trying to get it financed and through the door. And then it finally did. Then it started sweating again, right? Because then you're on the clock and interest is going all over the place and stuff like that. So, but I tell you what, it's made us a lot more calm builders. I feel like I'm able to really soothe and calm clients down, especially when they see costs come in. Now we have there's other ideas that we have for, like, hey, here's how you can save some money. And again, just having that knowledge about how much a garage door costs and being confident in saying what it costs, or the difference between different kinds of windows and what those cost, or different railing types, all kinds of solutions. I just think it's made us, I hope it does anyway, more well-rounded architects and professionals in the building industry.
Yeah. And not just us. I would say the people that work at our firm, because maybe they aren't doing that call and talking about those numbers, but know that they go on construction admin visits, right? And they're a little bit younger. And sometimes contractors can be intimidating, because they're 45 years old. Sometimes they're grumpy, sometimes they're not. They have a lot of knowledge, right? And they come back and have the conversation like, oh, they asked me about this. And I go, oh, remember when we were building this? Because they were on the job site, and that room right there and what we did. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember exactly what that is.
One of our people specifically, he's just questions constantly, just an insane amount of questions, but he has benefited. I mean, by magnitudes I can't even measure, honestly. I don't even know how you would do it, but the question, there's not a lot of questions anymore, because he knows, he's confident in what he's drawing. Even if it's just like giving tolerances the doors or something like that, he just gets how it's built now.
So when you guys went through this whole process, how did you actually decide that you were going to share this out with everybody else and turn it into a course for others to learn from and learn from everything that you went through, which I'm sure is full of mostly success, but some failures and learned lessons as well.
Yeah, let me preface one thing first. This is more Al. I think Al should answer this. But when we were finishing this project, I was convinced, even though it was it was literally one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, for sure. Because there was one point where I worked 80 days in a row, no joke. It was a very intense process at the end. But I was still convinced. I was like, okay, now we're gonna be contractors. Like, I know we're not going to be developers after this, maybe for a while, until somehow we figured out how that could work better. It just doesn't work well right now with how long it takes things to get approved, financing, all that kind of stuff. But I know we should take something from this and grow from it, and it should be as builders. And Alex was a little hesitant at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, when we have our very stressful build projects, I decide that my wife should have a baby at the same time.
Yeah, every time.
Every time. It literally works out. So it's like ending the project. You're like, well, here's a baby. Well, screw my decisions in life, right?
I like how you decide that.
What was that? So, but I mean, that's it's almost a perfect reason why we did this, was that a couple of these were so difficult. And I just finished a house, a couple months ago. And I told my wife, I go, because she's very, very understanding. But also, we'll point out from time to time, like, remember when I just had a baby and, you had to be on the job site, or, which is a legit criticism. And I go, honey, I hope you notice how on this last house, I tried not to have it impede on personal time as much. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, it's pretty much seemed like normal. Me, building a house. So construction can be extremely, extremely successful. And like we talked about, we basically had to find those mentors, when we were essentially laid off. And they're not always there, for you, and they can't always be there for you. They're doing their own thing. So while, yes, this course, we do charge money for it, I don't think we charge as much money as the value that you're going to get out of it. And the reason I say that is because we have this, like, people who want it before we launch, which is tomorrow, we have a discount, and we can give it to anyone that's listening to this too. But he bought it, and I knew this client was going to build his own house, but he was on the verge of having a contractor or build their own house. And it wasn't going to be us for various reasons. And he's like, oh, I saw on social media you have this course. And I go, yeah, if you want it. I didn't even think he was going to buy it. I go, here's the discount. He bought it immediately. He goes, I just watched the first 4 videos and they're amazing. And it hit my head, and I go, oh, you're going to save at least $70,000. Like, you're going to say, I would not charge for this course. I
wanted to charge more for the course, just for the record.
Yeah. And I told him, like, hey, the course is for, transition from architect to builder. So there'll be some things that aren't relevant. You're not converting clients or anything like that. But I believe your question was, like, why? And I think that goes back literally to the beginning of we've experienced this benefit from other mentors. And I actually have some interviews with different builders in there too, as, just bonus interviews, just kind of part of it. And a couple of them, and I was talking to other builders when I was developing this. I was getting, different spreadsheets together so that we could do stuff. And don't let me forget, I want to talk about one of the cool things about it.
Okay.
But a common theme, not all of them, was, hey, how do you get in it? Oh, my dad was in it. Oh, my uncle was in it. And I go, oh, something like, we didn't have that. Other people don't have that. So how do you get over some of these hurdles if you just can't call up your dad or your uncle or something like that? So that's a huge, huge reason, why we did it.
Yep. And to piggyback on top of that, I think what I would add is that I want architects to take more responsibility and really take back the profession so that they're master builders again. Right. You can still do all the cool fancy design stuff. We do that all day long. I live in a really cool house. We operate in a really cool building. But we also build them. And man, there's we hear it all the time as architects about these contractors. Well, they'll get the client first, and then we're kind of like eating peas at the end of the day, and they're in more control. It's like, well, guys, we got to take on more responsibility then to get more financial reward, more professional reward, prestige reward, knowledge reward, all of that stuff. So a lot of it is we want more architects to do what we're doing because I think it'll help the profession in a huge way.
So let me ask you this before you remind Al about the cool thing that he was supposed to talk about.
I don't even know what
But so this was something that Evan and I were talking about probably the last show, maybe even the show before. So as, the builders, and the architect, I mean, how are you finding this affects the way that you document the project? Because that you're going to be out on site and doing a lot of that work. Because, I was referencing to him that, I've got all these old historic documents when architects were, the master builder. And, there are like 15 sets of documents and things like that. Whereas I just set out a permit set that was 1,192 sheets. And, it's just like, not all of these things are going to be looked at. Not all of the things are going to be followed. And, am I just creating this big, massive stack of paper for nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just kind of curious, like, how are you guys, documenting the work that you're actually building?
Let me give you two specific examples.
If you steal mine, you own it.
He's not going to bring you. You already know he's not going to bring you a coffee or a beer.
There, go.
Number one, our electrician gave us some feedback that was really interesting, and I don't know how we would have got that feedback unless we were the GC on one of the houses and the other projects that we've built. And he goes, "Would it be possible if you guys take the electrical plans and actually split them out so there's just an outlet plan and a switch and lighting plan?" And I go, "Sure." Now it's a company standard.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was a specific one. And then another specific one was how we dimension to beams, drop beams specifically. So, yeah, you're laughing. I know, exactly, right? Like, I'm sure you've gotten the calls like, well, I can't see. And rightly so. Like, sometimes they're not the right dimensions. What we had done before is we'd put these, the little tags in Revit or whatever, where it says like 101, 101 and 7/8 inches and is bottom of the beam, 110 and 7/8 inches is the top of the beam. And I got so sick of, after like 3 or 4 framing jobs, of the subs asking that same question, like, well, what is the real dimension? I just needed the measurement from the top of foundation to the bottom of the beam. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. So then we brought the whole firm out one day. I pulled out the drawings and I literally already had them circled. And I go, guys and gals, here's what we're doing from now on, because I'm tired of answering the questions. This is how we're going to dimension drop beams from now on. And so there's another one.
So it's a great question.
Yeah.
I was talking to a developer probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And somehow I was bringing up, I don't know what question I asked him, but it was like, oh, why don't you do all of it? Architect as builder. And he goes, well, I found I tried that at a different company, but they'll just skimp on the drawings. They'll just skimp on the drawings and it's not the same. So like, that's why we wanted to separate it. So we make a distinction when we're talking to our clients too, that we're architect plus builder.
Yeah.
If it fits, if the relationship fits, because we've actually gotten projects from other clients that they had architect builders, and then they broke up because they weren't holding up their end of the bargain. And then all of a sudden we have to redraw everything because they won't give it, because they're thinking of it as a whole. So they might be skimping on the design part and be like, we're going to make all our dough at the end part when we can easily add on 18%. And all of a sudden they're not executing the drawings well because that money isn't, they didn't portion it. They basically have, their pie at the end and they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then they're pissed when it breaks up. So we clearly separate, like, oh, we're architects first. We're doing that first. And then if we do the builder part 2, the more the merrier. That's exciting. So like, I think that's key. But then the second thing is that exactly going what Lance was talking about and what you're getting at is that, okay, now that we are in the field, we want to be lean to be correct and be helpful, not to skip. Mm-hmm. So that means, hey, we drew 8 sections for this house, or, cut them in Revit and fill them up.
Right.
How many times did those get looked at? Mm-hmm. Maybe the only one with the stair, and the rest of them were a waste of paper. Mm-hmm. We, on very simple houses, this isn't so don't take this as a general rule. Like, I've had contractors ask me, what's a reflected ceiling plan?
What the hell do I need that for?
You know what I mean?
And sometimes they don't, right? Now we're going out there building, and I'm like, oh yeah, we really don't need reflected ceiling plans for like a simple house.
And this isn't a standard, but like if you put the ceiling access on there, and if you have your smoke detectors on your electrical plan, and the framer knows how to build it, you think the drywall person is coming once it's framed and be like, what's your ceiling height? No, it's there. If you aren't doing, so just all of those new nuances that we can apply, not to skimp, but to be more efficient, is going to be helpful.
Right. And I think that was kind of where I was hoping you guys were going to go, is it's not about necessarily the skipping, it's about the efficiency and providing just the amount of information that's really needed to get what you want done, rather than, throwing all of this stuff in them just to kind of, I think I said it when Evan and I were talking, to kind of like prove your worth or prove that, oh, look, I'm really working. You're like, you don't need to do all of that. You need to just be lean and show them exactly what it is that's going to get your design built the way you want it to be built.
Yeah. We were making the distinction about being a piece of the puzzle and understanding that we're not trying to do it all, not every time at least, and actually being proactive and asking the contractor what they're going to need instead of assuming that we know what they're going to need, because a lot of times we're just trying to get a permit set and we need certain requirements in our drawings to get that, but it isn't what they need to build it necessarily, especially in these 1,192 set sheets of drawings, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in there that the contractor will never look at. And so then you have to start asking yourself, is this what they need to do what they need to do, to be their piece of the puzzle?
And if you're on the build site every day, you will probably be surprised how much you don't look at the plans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
a little...
It's a joke, but then you go there and you're like, when it's framed, people stop looking at plans.
I wish I could get our engineering students out to job sites more. When everything was in person still, and when we were actually building the project we're sitting in now, the one we developed, we did bring them out, and it was super helpful. But the point I always try to make to them, and I know they won't get it until they go to experience a site, is rolling your drawings up with the drawings facing outward. Everybody knows this. And when you unroll them, then they don't flop all over the place, and they generally lay flat. And I try to explain to them that, like, guys, these contractors don't give a crap about the look of your beautiful drawings. It's more important about the functionality. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah. So. I've been out on job sites where they'll tear one sheet out and give it to this guy, and tear another sheet out and give it to this guy, and it's all crumpled up and it's in the dirt. And it's an instrument to get the thing built. It is not anything anybody's ever going to frame and put on a wall.
Yep, it's not artwork.
Well, where's you say that?
Except we did.
we took old drawings, and in our bathrooms we use it as wallpaper.
Nice.
So in the bathroom you can look at architecture plans.
But you're right. Yes. I mean, seriously, like, we have a set of drawings up that we just finished for a little addition we did up in a town north of us. Yeah. Nobody's framing those things. Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's funny. We have like this emotional attachment to art. Yeah.
Yeah. We think, it's our baby, it's our jewel, it's what we've done. It's interesting as you guys say that about like I've actually noticed through my career the evolution of, the old site drafting table that they had all of the documents on, and then it was all muddy and dirty and all of this other stuff, to the last few jobs that I've had. I didn't see sheet one because everything was on an iPad.
Yeah.
And they were running Plan Grid or something like that, and they were just working through it. And so most of the time, I mean, you're going to have some old school guys that are going to be running around with their paper, but for the most part, they're, on their iPad.
And I would say, if you have that bug to make it look pretty, which some people do and they'll never get that out of there, I would do it for the sake of clarity. Meaning,
exactly.
So how can you, here's an exercise, you're doing your dimension string, right? What is the best location for that where you can touch almost everything so you don't have to break it into 4 or 5 different weird dimension strings and it looks all ugly? That's the art to me.
Oh yeah, I still get off on like when we have a new employee or something, and they come in, and they're like, they make I had to make this 3/16 of an inch equals a foot. And I'm like, ooh, that's a big no. We never do that. And they go, well, I just couldn't fit it on the sheet. And then I make them fit everything on one sheet just as like tight as possible. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I could even. I was like, yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I am still, even to this day, I remember when I was working on my own and doing my own projects, and even now, I'm super anal about the way that it all graphically lays out, only because of that exact thing. It's clarity, because if you start like layering and throwing so much stuff in there, it's going to be far more confusing. And the broken record that I always say to Evan, which probably he rolls his eyes every time, so cue your eye roll here, is like, if we as architects have a question about what the hell the information that we have on the drawings are going to be, it's sure in the hell going to cost you a hell of a lot more out in the field to fix rather than you fixing it, on paper. So get it clean, get it clear, make yourself understand what the hell the information is that you're trying to say, so that you can avoid half the RFIs that you would normally get. Like, I don't understand what it is that you're saying on the sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. Most of the RFIs, at least back in the day, our plans must have gotten better. They'd say there's a bust or whatever and call.
Oh yeah. The bust.
Yep.
And they would be great, but they were honestly just searching for the information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Half of my RFI answers used to be I can't, I need this detail. Oh, well, look on this sheet. But it wasn't, I started to slowly learn. I was like, wait, there was this logical order that I kind of like broke, and it should, the detail that they were looking for here should have been right here rather than 5-6 pages down the road.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. That's a great point. We've actually even went so far as our framers and our foundation folks, same crew. And I finally sat down with them one day and I go, Gio, I'm going to teach you how to read drawings. And nobody had. They that is one of the mind blowing things to me. It's like, oh my God, we just assume they know how we're coding things with our little book that we're making, with all of our little symbols and stuff. And the questions from him have almost went to zero because now he knows how to navigate through the drawings correctly. I had to use a little bit of Spanish and everything, but it worked perfectly. It's great.
Half the time they think they're looking at some IKEA directions.
Yeah. So I recently took the contractor's test, and I was, told like, some questions might be how to read drawings. I didn't get a single. I maybe got 1 out of 80 on that. I was like, please give me 20% of the questions on how to read drawings. I can do that. But
I'm wondering if your guys' drawings changed at all because of what you've learned by building.
The most, yes. I gave those couple examples. The other one that I gave recently, and this is actually going in the opposite direction of doing things efficiently. So there's a tenant finish that we're going to be doing. It's a rather substantial one. It'll be one of our first ones that we've done. 4,000 square feet, pretty big, in the town we operate in. And we're going to do this. Our crew that we have now built within our construction arm is going to do the steel framing. And so with my GC hat on, I needed to tackle 2 things. Number one, I needed accurate material takeoff because the estimators are never right. And I know that I can be right because of the past builds that we've done, like down to the stick or down to the stud. So what I had our team do, and then they did it on another tenant finish where we're going to build it is, I said, I want you to model all of the steel studs, the tracks, everything. But this was after we were done and through permit. So this was us eating into a little bit of the profit, the GC profit. But the idea was we're going to make that up on the back end because our framing crew is going to look at that 3D drawing now. They're going to know exactly how this thing goes together. And then it also saved me time because I could get an instant material takeoff as soon as they were done modeling. So that's one big one that we've done for interior finish jobs. We will model all of the studs if we're the GC. If we're the architect only, it's a different story.
Have you guys gone beyond the drawings? Like you just said, you include like, I assume these are like axons or something. Are they on a sheet, or is it an interactive model that you're providing to them?
Both. So exactly, it's an axonometric, a couple of them, right?
Uh-huh.
And they're usually on maybe one or two sheets. And then, it just makes everything clear. And we were already kind of doing that. We were already doing that anyway for houses that we were doing the structural engineering for with our engineer. We were already modeling it like it was going to get built, like Alex talked about at the very beginning. And our framers loved it. Like the minute they saw it for the first time, not our framers, but the GCs who were building it before we were, Brian Tinker would call us, like I distinctly remember it, and he goes, please do these drawings from now on, because it just minimized our questions. They're awesome. Yeah. The lumberyard loved it. Everybody loved it. And then with the model, yes. So one of our construction foremen is pretty tech savvy, and we've given him a laptop, and that's the idea is, hey, open up. Here's how to navigate through Revit. Open it up.
Yes. And that question reminds me of something we did before we became contractors, but the through line actually led us to what we developed for this course that I said remind me of, that I'm reminding myself of. So
Finally.
Oh, yeah.
He's not even drinking.
So one of the things we did when we could start a firm was we realized that it was only Lance and I. So we're the only ones making decisions. So we can rethink things. So why don't we do things the way we think they should be done? One of the things we did with Revit is, we're gonna start fresh and model everything like it gets built. So finished floors are different from framing floors. Finished facades are different from framing facades, because that models as it gets built. The more we can do anything, any little improvement to make our models and our documents like that, the better we're going to do. So then it took us a couple of years. Then we thought, if you look at foundation plans, especially if you do multifamily or something like that, and there's going to be slope, all of a sudden you have 10 units going at different levels, and some of them go back and forth. And you look at this foundation plan
in a 2D, and it's just nothing.
It's a mess of lines.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
It doesn't matter if you print them off on color and have like different hatch patterns. We did try that.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a disaster because again, it's like, we assume these folks can read our drawings. Like we assume that they're in our heads, and they're not.
And we even had a builder build all the foundations wrong. They were all, because you have to match civil, there's fire rules. Everyone here knows
height rules, major height rules, right?
That you have to get built. So they are all, like, this one's 1 foot down. This one's 1 foot 2 7/8. This one is 4 inches down. It's like, couldn't do that. This is what he told me. Couldn't do that. I made them all 14 inches. All 14. Built it. The project got red flagged. It got halted. And here was one of the benefits of it, because that was, I was younger, but knowing more what I did, we modeled it, in Revit. And I go, and we modeled the structure, we modeled everything. I go, I know it can be built that way, because I modeled
virtually
it that way, right?
Virtually tested it.
So then eventually it took us a while, and then we go, we're already making this in 3D. And I think we had to do it for that client. Why don't we set up an automatic view that has a filter that takes off everything but the concrete structural foundation walls, and have that at, an angle, and just tag the elevations. And if there are elevation tags, you can just like draw a line on there, and that same line will be on the floor plan. They immediately see that. They immediately see like, it looks like every 14 feet, it looks like you're changing heights. Let me look at this detail plans. Yep, right there. If I look at, just a world of difference, of difference. And where I'm going with when we were building this, finally getting to my point, building this course, we actually took our time and filmed things over a while, and was putting together things. And I was talking to other builders, and this was maybe one of the major breakthroughs, was I was getting a bunch of bid spreadsheets to compare, to make sure that, not only is this course, us talking, there's also resources, templates, things like that you can actually use and apply. And it hit me, okay, if everything we do on the architecture side is model like it gets to be built, why can't we apply that to the builder side? So, there's codes for bids. GCs have different ways. Banks even have their own different ways of doing
the CSI, right?
Yeah.
The Construction Specifiers Institute, that whole thing.
Banks have their own different ways. And I go, no, let's break the bid up into the construction sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your foundation undergrounds. Here's all your steps. Here's your framing and roof. Here's all your steps.
So it's sequential.
It's sequential.
It does two things, I think. So it demystifies the process. Because, like, honestly, even one of the things that kind of blew my mind when we really first started building like traditional buildings with spread footers and all that was, well, how does the water get in? Like, do you guys just? And I had to ask the subs multiple times, and they were like, yeah, we just dig a trench, bro, and then you come up, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Fire line. It's all mystical. So it really demystifies that process of like, here's your sequence, and then the other thing it does is when you go to put in for your construction draws, you're going from a top-down scenario instead of like scrolling up and down and all over the place. And it's basically capitalizing on, we've been implementing the 2-second lean by Paul Akers over at the firm over the past couple of weeks, and making those kind of tweaks and like just getting it into the culture of the firm and what we do. Of like, at any point, if we find stuff like that, where we're like, oh, I'm tired of, I don't know, dimensioning this certain way, or I'm tired of like having to tweak this schedule, go into the template, take 2 minutes. You'll make up for that 2 seconds later, because we'll multiply that, over the next 10 years and stuff.
Yep. And then I also noticed when I got the bids, and this was the one that kind of told me it was going to work on the right track. I had electrical and plumbing, and they would bill me out at rough electrical,
Mm-hmm.
rough plumbing, rough mechanical.
Yeah.
And so instead of just having one line, I broke the spreadsheet into that. So when you get that bid, you can put in the rough number and the final number too. And then over on the side, you can, like the plumber is maybe in maybe he comes in the beginning when you're doing your excavation, undergrounds, maybe he comes for rough and maybe for finals. Well, just sort by plumbing, like that's so much easier that, by having it in that order. That's a low cost for you to do, is to sort by plumbing than to do it the other way.
And it's a cross check on your subs. If you're a new GC and you've never looked at a plumber's bid, a lot of these guys will just throw one number at the whole thing, and it's not really broken into the categories that Alex just explained. So it's a cross check for you, because you're going to take their bid and you're going to go, hey, Sam or Bill or whatever, you need to help me break this out, because in my spreadsheet, this is how it's going to go. And so then it's a safety valve for you to find, as you're a newbie, anything that you might not know about, like a nuance, and you won't get surprised. Then you don't have to eat out of the contingency fund of a construction project.
Because here's an example. What if they give you a bid for plumbing that's $30,000, making up a number, and you go, okay, you put that in a regular spreadsheet, $30,000. You put it in our spreadsheet, and it has, the breakdown of rough, all that, and then it has plumbing fixtures. And you go, oh, did you guys include plumbing fixtures? Like, are you bringing the toilets and that? And they go, no, we don't do that. You buy it. Well, in our scenario, you caught it.
Yep.
In the other scenario, you get 3/4 through the project, and you go, we don't have this in the line item here.
Our foundation folks are notorious for that. Like, here's what the foundation cost is, and I go, is excavation included? Oh no, that's separate. Well, you got to tell me. $1,000.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've got a good intro to the show now, right? So
Nice.
Let's jump into the meat of this here. Tell us what this course is and what you guys go through during this thing and what people can expect to get out of it. Because I love what you guys have done. I love how you've really turned this back to this kind of idea of the master builder, and you've been through it yourselves. You're not just blowing smoke. So what is this course and what is it about? So
it's called Architect to Builder. You can go to Architect's Guide to, Architects plural guide, and then just to.com, and it'll get you there. And essentially it is us taking what we learned from building tiny houses, building crazy monstrosity tiny houses, building an eightplex, building houses, building a barn dominium, building additions, and taking you through the steps that not only we found were more beneficial to us to transition your clients into construction projects, right? Which basically is a safety net for your firm.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, especially when COVID hit. We didn't have to lay anybody off. In fact, we expanded because we made that move.
Yep. So because once you're funded, they're not taking away funding. You know, some people will do architecture plans where they're paying cash for it, and then something hits and it's done. Once you're funded, you're secure for the next year for that project or however long.
Yeah.
So how we found the best way to transition to that, and you know, even little tips and tricks about like, we tell you why when you do get your bid, you've already had these conversations. Send that in an email rather than in person. Here's why, you know, things like that. Then
stuff that we had to learn. And you know, just to drill in that just a little bit here was, I was first going through the construction budget in real time, and it was a disaster. And then I called one of our GCs who's built most of our really cool homes, and I said, "How do you do it?" And he goes, "Oh, I send them an email on a Friday, then they get pissed over the weekend, and then they have a few drinks, and then they calm down, and then we talk Monday, and then we massage it, and we do business."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, multiple things like that. Then how to actually set up those projects, right? How to bid them out, how to, what you're going to go through to get that project to start. Then also what you need to do to become a contractor, what licenses you need to do,
the different kinds,
what tests you need to do, test on tipping, tips on the test for doing all that. And then take you through, okay, construction. Here's the general sequence, right? Here's the draw process. Here's even stuff as simple as if you never have ordered inspections, you know, like, how does that work? Well, here's how it works. Here's the general list of them. I'll take you through a real example where I blank out the names just so you, like, I didn't know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things that you don't know are literally, I know this because I went through it, just adding anxiety instead of having clarity, right? There's a major difference if you're operating through clarity or anxiety. It, like, we can just tell you from experience, it's just a world of difference. Yeah. And then giving you the resources that we put together, like I said, to mimic reality so that you can have more clarity through your process. So it's us filming it. One of our foremen used to be a professional photographer, and he has all the equipment. So it was filmed really nicely. The only ones that weren't were the ones where, let's say I'm going over the details of something that's shown on the screen. Well, I didn't call him in to just film my face so it could be a little square, you know, and all that. So all that and all those resources kind of put together in one place so that you have the confidence to transition your clients from architect to builder and not do the same mistakes where you're overlapping, you're overextending yourself, you're operating out of anxiety, you don't know what to do, trying to set you up for success, you know. And it was funny because I was trying to close a client, and I was walking around. For some reason, I was walking around where every else one was, and I was able to say, and I just pulled this line out of nowhere, and I think Lance gave me a high five even before I was
so
done.
stoked.
And I'm going to butcher it now, but he was saying, hey, he's new to this process. You know, he wants an architect that can help him. It's like, oh, well, we can take you from the first stroke of the pencil to the last pounding of the nail, you know, because we've done all that. And, you know, I should have ran around and just high-fived everyone because you could just tell the guy's like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And it's backed up by what we've done, right? So not only do we think that being a builder is just going to help you financially be very, very successful, and taking this course is going to help you not only in that way, but help you from losing money too, helping you from like not only losing money, but profiting from it, but then helping your architecture firm, you know, your solid core base.
I would love it if you guys make another course about how you've basically figured out a way to productize your knowledge so that you can make money while you're sleeping, right? Because you guys have also transitioned by putting out courses like this and by putting out Revit Rocket Ship and things like that. you're not just selling your time for money, which is another theme that Cormac and I have been talking about on the show a lot, which is architects just sell time for money. And so all of the incentives align to spending less time on projects, right? Which means less fees. And you're trying to balance profit and time and all this thing. And so by putting out a course like this, you guys have figured out another way to diversify your business and help people and make the profession better. It seems like, I just want to thank you guys. You guys are doing an awesome job.
I think that's also a key point too, because if somehow we were going to literally take all this knowledge and format all that and try to give it to someone, you're talking $30,000 worth of time, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said, if you can prioritize it and multiple people can buy it, then it's not even close.
And it does something like, Alex, what have you been saying to me lately? Something like,
bring me coffee?
Bring me coffee.
Or beer.
Something about making money with no risk or very little risk. Yeah, that was one of the giant. It's such a huge lesson to us about putting the developer hat on. We're like, oh my God, talk about risk. I actually get why they would want to squeeze the civils, the architects. I understand it because they need to make sure there's a big slice of pie at the end for them to go through years of anxiety and could be financial ruin every single time, right?
Right, yeah. right.
What was the others? That was it. Was okay, how can we make money? No. How can we make money
by minimizing risk?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so you're going to take risks when you become a builder, right? So this course will help you minimize risk. This course helps us minimize risk because there's less risk in a course, right? But then I think it also gives you the ammunition to be able to talk to those contractors and everyone and tell them, when they want to squeeze something for some reason, hey, it's not worth it for whatever reason. I know that beam's going to cost you an extra $1,000 or, this or that, but talking more on their level from experience, it's just like anything. If you have any shared common experience, if you were in the Army and someone else was in the Army, if you you can just bond over that. If you're talking to a contractor, I built this too, their guard goes down.
And it's another thing too is what I've noticed is some of our subs have actually brought us work now, simply because we have a different style of relationship with them. Same thing with the podcast. We have listeners every once in a while that come in and go yeah, I've listened to I know I've listened to, X, Y, and Z episodes, and that's why I picked you guys. And I'm like, what? I would not have expected that. So it's just another way of putting good into the universe and the world.
Yeah.
And then it always comes back around. There was a Jonathan Siegel quote that I remember. You mentioned him early on in today's show as one of your kind of inspirations for doing this. And he said, clients are not the answer to your problems.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So have you guys felt like that is true? Or do you feel like this is added to your bucket of problems as an architect?
Wait, are you talking about the building portion or the course portion?
Well, the developer portion, right? Because he basically said, I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to be my own client. I'm not going to have to answer to somebody else's whims that change on a weekly or daily basis, right? So he's basically saying, I'm going to control all of that as the architect developer.
And you know what? I think that's on the pendulum of risk to reward. And I think that actually he's taken a lot of risk. And I don't know if we're set up that way because, like we said, you buy the land, you wait 2 years to go through, then you build it. Then there's litigate, there's all these things. And he's taking that massive risk, but if you follow him, he has massive rewards. I think he has Jaguars and,
Well, yeah, and now he's trying to consolidate everything so he can build a skyscraper, which I think is his retirement pinnacle project. And good for him. That's a lifetime achievement.
So there's a scale there. And I think right now, hey, that's a good model. That's one we were following. Mm-hmm. We found another niche that fits the way we've set up our business for a long time. And meaning he has an architecture firm, but early on he was designing and then building his own thing. So that his is streamlined that way. We've built up a streamline of clients that, companies who have a regular architecture firm. So now we are minimizing risk because we're kind of vetting them to begin with, right? There's less of a time gap. There's more of a feedback loop, and that works for our business structure. You could take the course and you could do it the other way, but you have to think about how are you fundamentally set up, because you could be fundamentally set up where you're doing one architecture project and one build project at a time. That's fine. That works with this.
Right.
That's more, or you do one development project over 3-4 years, and that's giving you a different level of reward. For us, it's like, you can do honestly 50 architecture projects at a time and 4 building projects at a time. Well, that's how we built it,
Yeah. That's where I think we land in that mix of things. I wanted to be Jonathan Sisgal at one point, but I don't know if we'll be there.
All right. So what is the website again?
Architects Guide to.
architectsguide2.com. And you guys are F9 Productions.
F9 Productions. Lance is a cat. I'm Alex Gore. Please listen to Inside the Firm podcast. You can find it on any podcast. We're also builders. F14 Productions. You just listed off the website if you want to go get that course. Anything else?
If anybody ever has any questions and they're listening to this, we are always around. Honestly, we always give out Alex's email address, akg@f9productions.com. Mine is lmc@f9productions.com. You can find us. You can get a hold of us. We are always happy to answer questions and help people out in any way we can.
And you guys are pretty active on Entree Architect Facebook group, on LinkedIn. And again, I just really appreciate everything that you guys do to share your experience and your knowledge with the larger community, because that is how we move forward together. So thank you guys.
Thank you. We've appreciated this interview. It's been real fun, guys.
All right. Until next time. See you guys.
Okay. Adios.
Well, let's do a little wrap up here. What did you think about that interview with them?
Inspired. I want to go buy the course just to, see what they're doing and just, kind of get my hands around because this is, I love what they're doing, because the thing that we are always talking about is what are the other opportunities for architects? And, architects seem to want to limit themselves to, I'm going to design, this thing and then pass it off to a builder and all this other stuff. And the thing that I loved what they were saying is this opportunity to actually take control for themselves. And that is the one thing, I had this conversation with somebody today, and they were talking about, I guess because of, COVID and everything else, that things are starting to lose a little bit of their luster. I mean, the shine is coming off of the profession, and they're like, well, how do I get the shine back? And, and it's just like, and I started talking to them about the biophilia center that I did in Florida, where I was fully immersed in the project. I was part of not only just the designer as the project, but I was also immersed in their actual program and learning what they do and doing things like, building gopher tortoise, pens and things like that, or learning about how they go out and even watching them, go out and do control burns on their reforestation progress and things like that, and watching them, getting involved with what they do and stuff, and not just being just an innocent bystander who's okay, I don't really understand what you do, but I'm going to design a building for you, and really having a greater, stronger connection to the client. And that's exactly what it sounds like they're doing, is that they're going to have more connection with the client. They have more, they really truly understand and embrace what the client wants. And I love that. And it's projects like that you don't lose the spark. You actually are it's a new spark. It's a different spark. It doesn't always have to be the same thing. People get stuck in this funk and all this other stuff. And this is something that just, it's what is the new adventure? New adventures, I'm going to do a house. I'm going to do a deck. I'm going to do an addition.
One of the cool things about their development is that they're actually now practicing out of it. And imagine the amount of pride that they have every time a client shows up to their office to say, yeah, we built this. We designed it, we built it, we developed it, we did everything. We know where every piece in this building is. And that's got to be really rewarding. And
Yeah,
I
'cause
agree with you. I want to take the course too. And it's not because I'm going to be developing, but it's
right,
because I could learn so much by
absolutely.
just following along with what they've been through. And I think that would help every project that I was going to work on.
Yeah, and even like, like I won't say the advanced years of me in this in the profession, but I've been in the profession a while and I've dealt with a lot of contractors and stuff, and but putting on the hat as both the architect and the contractor on like a same project gives you a completely different perspective of how to like interact with them. And they even said, I mean, I think Lance was, talking about how his perspective and how the dialogue between the contractors has completely changed, and now he's actually, that relationship is stronger now, and things like that, things like this course can actually help you do that.
Well, we don't
I,
normally do interview shows, if ever. I think the
hmm,
last time we had a guest on the show was your buddy Steve Hoffman when we were
yeah,
talking
it's
about
been
Citizen Architect. And I
right.
really felt like this was a great story to tell. And it was
Oh,
hopefully
absolutely.
going to be inspiring to our audience to put the shine back on what we're doing. Yeah, I mean,
There
it
you go.
is a different way to look at things, and there is so much to learn. We get
Yeah,
so kind of pigeonholed and in this rut of the day to day of the things that we do. And to kind of take a step back and get that bigger picture of the landscape, there's so much out there. And these
yeah,
guys are showing some other aspects of what's available.
yeah, yeah. It's
Very
I'm
cool.
charged.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for hanging out tonight. It was fun.
This was great. I loved it.